Auditor General in office. They say audit service alone, they get a couple for government, so it means say they not get the right for put them couple on the single treasury account. But this, according to the financial sector in the Ministry of Finance, Ajusu, it say audit service alone they mislead the public because then they collect audit fee for ministry, department, and agency them where then can go audit. So Ajusu talk this now the every Thursday press briefing where the Ministry of Information and Communication can all for government, ministry, department, and agency them who say they can go give updates about them work. They continue say the Minister of Finance don't they support audit service salon for ensure say they're able for do the work proper one. Well, Kabia been there at this press briefing yesterday, who say the financial sector will make this statement and they gonna report.
After the 2019 Auditor General report, where audit service salon been polled, plenty concern don't they come about this report. In one area, now whether the Auditor General gets right for keep the couple, where different ministry, departments, and agency them, they pay to them as audit fee for make them keep them for themselves or put them now the consolidated fund. Plenty people don't get different position on this. The Ministry of Finance self don't take position on this issue. Sajusu now the financial sector now the Ministry of Finance inside the every Thursday press briefing where the Ministry of Information and Communication can all for different ministry, departments, and agency them who side them can go give updates to the public, but then different work them where they don't they do. Say the law give them the rights for make audit service salon pay the couple where they can give them as audit fee now the single treasury account, because in say the office they get a couple for government.
The fundamental issue which they are raising and which is a misleading message, many people who are not familiar with the financial management terrain relate to control. If we give you 41 billion a year and then we say the money you collect as audit fees is a revenue, when you go to the definition of revenue in any part of the world, it includes taxes, it includes charges, it includes levies of any sort. So when they mislead people that audit service Sierra Leone is not a revenue collecting agency is completely wrong. I challenge anyone to say that when they collect audit fees, it's not a revenue. And that act did not exempt anyone. Even those that they selected that were in the schedule, the act went on further to say it is mandatory for any other agencies of government. And when those bodies were transferred, they transferred about 64 billion. But ASSL, their Supreme Audit Agency, the 1 billion loans they collect, if they pass it through the TSA, Ministry of Finance sees it, Bank of Sierra Leone sees it, it is a control. It's not a control.
Sajusu believes say the Auditor General's office now the most funded office na salon where according to them then they give them couple pass any ministry, department, and agency them na the country.
We give from 2018 27 billion as commitment resources on timely basis. Some of you may have heard this morning where the Deputy Auditor General said that all monies that we allocated to them last year, they receive it. Of course, MDAs are jealous of that. 41 billion euros. In 2018, the audit fees was about 1.4 billion. In 2019, it was about 1.6, 1.7 billion. But we gave them 34 billion, 37 billion. And then they talk about control. We pay the salaries of audit service on a monthly basis. We give them other charges regularly. We are bidding their building, the building that was put to halt even before this government came. We just provided the vehicles in which she quoted in one of the audit report of COVID to see the vehicles were supplied by middlemen. The same set of middlemen supplied their vehicles, but that will not be reflected in the audit report. ACC does not get half of what we give to audit service Sierra Leone. Parliament has over 400 staff, including parliamentarians providing oversight. We gave them about 21 billion last year, while we gave audit service 41 billion. NEC, Human Rights Commission. So where is the control? Why is it that people don't want to be in compliance with the law? We are just saying as simple as that, comply with the law and let us move forward to improve on the governance. We are just concerned that what reflects on the integrity of the rest of the orders that you audit should also reflect on you. And of course, the question she has raised, I wish she was around to the speaker, was that they have used the 2018-2019 money of over 3 billion euros on training. For me, that is not my business. Let us comply with the law.
Ikeyon say they're not glad with the way how the Auditor General they mix the different audit reports them with them can poll.
I told the Auditor General and parliamentarians 2 days ago, and I challenged them to tell us, including the Auditor General, Where on earth, when you audit an entity in a year, 2019, you will take figures of 2015, take figures of 2017, 18, and add it on to 2019 and say cash losses. Why do you take something that does not relate to an account? An account has a period. The audit report is in respect of an account dated the 31st of December 2019. So when you audit 2019 account, it is the account prepared by the Accountant General. You are not going to look at the audit of 2015, 2016 and add on to present negative image. All of you must have read when they say it's 177 billion euros not accounted for. It is not this government. We took our time, we did the computation, we observed that it was around 47 billion. $4.7 million as against $800 million budget. That is completely misleading and it's unacceptable.
Sajusu end up say government always open the hand for work with the Auditor General in office and serve support the implementation of the recommendation them working the inside the reports them for Radio Democracy. Kabia the reports.
Right, we continue with the program. Good morning, Salon. We come to you from 98.1 FM. The time for my studio clock now 7:40, and we come over to we studio guest them. I will start with the Accountant General. This morning we in Richard Williams. We don't see in the last month back and forth from the Ministry of Finance and the Auditor General's office with regards the Treasury single account, whether or not the Auditor General for puts waiting, then they collect, they get as revenue into the account. But to start with, tell me first how the Treasury single accounts they operate.
Thank you very much, Asma. Good morning, listeners. I will start for the small background around the Treasury single account. The Treasury single account really is a cash management tool. It helps any institution, including government, for managing cash. It's an idea where it come from the IFAD of the IMF that if we need for manage cash, we need for come up with the Treasury single account. The Treasury single account virtually basically is a set of accounts. You don't mean one account. It's a set of accounts that are linked, and when you put all the balances on those accounts, they tell you what's in a government balance. So that is what the Treasury single account is all about. So if you look at the accounts itself, various bank accounts, you will observe some are in overdraft position, some go there in positive position, that means revenue. But if you decide to make payments on the ones them in a overdraft position, definitely you will incur more expenditure, or especially on interest. So the Treasury single account is like put all the balances together, get an arrangement with your bank, that they know that when all them balances are also put together, that you bank balances and you can operate without borrowing unnecessarily. That is what the Treasury single account is all about. Not one bank account, but it's a set of bank accounts linked together. When you put all of those balances, you know it's in a government position at any particular point in time. And that's not the objective, right, for support government cash flow.
So in establishing this single Treasury account, where in all institutions where they generate money for, like a pot, a pool, they put all the money where they generate, wanna identify which institution or agency for actually put into that Treasury single Treasury account.
I think I will need to go now to the Act itself, because the Fiscal Management and Control Act, Section 3, says all agencies of government for put their money into the consolidated fund, right, and into the Treasury single account. And what that means, it says revenues and other monies collected by agency are to be that were retained for the purpose of defraying, including defraying the expenses of their agency that they never put on the Treasury single account. So virtually, it not give any, not allow any other institution for hold. But again, the Act go further for say certain agencies, the government can come with an arrangement with them, but if we put the money all into the consolidated fund, and they can come with an arrangement wherein thereafter, right, the money then collects, government will give a proportion of the revenue then collect. That is exactly what the Act is saying.
All right, the Act say one thing, but the Constitution also, we Supreme, say another thing. But the legal mandate, we can talk about that. But quickly, how the single treasury account don't they operate, don't they do with regards agencies putting their monies there and una disbursing it again to the same agency there?
Well, at the moment, as I mentioned, all agencies supposed to put their money into the Treasury single account. We get 13 TSA agencies where then they collect, then they generate revenues for themselves, bring her into the consolidated fund, but then 13 agencies, then they'll get an arrangement with them as to the proportion of waiting and will collect. You get agencies and virtually is like the revenue is small, right? But the expenditure big, but government therefore operates. So then they get additional funds from the consolidated fund. You get agencies that we get more than waiting required for one day operation. Virtually the excess over and above, they support government for let government able to do other activities in other areas. So that's not the objective of the TSA. And virtually the TSA has been doing well over the years. And I can easily say it's like it support government cash flow and cash management properly.
Mr. Williams, let's take you back to 2018 when this issue of the single treasury account been started. Also, a memorandum been come out, was signed by the secretary to the president, and paragraph 4 of that particular memo they say, in the view of the ongoing, you are hereby directed to exempt audit service from the action proposed in your memorandum under the reference. Let me again reiterate that the independence of this institution should be maintained at all times. This particular section is therefore talks for exempt the audit service from this single treasury account when are all the arguments and don't they come out. So if this memo they say this and the Ministry of Finance they say otherwise, you know things say mix up this somewhere, I can just clarify that side. Eh?
Yes. Yeah. Based on which you don't see in the letter, we don't bring out. There is an issue where I think some go, my colleague Farid go address, but the responsibility under the Act for do any changes or amend the schedule and the Act lies with that of the minister. But my colleague and Farid, I think, will address the issue of legality on that particular aspect.
All right, let's just bring Mr. Algali inside. The same question I posed to you.
Thank you, Khadija, and good morning, listeners, and good morning, Sir Leon. Well, look, with respect to waiting the Secretary to the President say in the letter we just mentioned, frankly, you're not correct. Now, your opinion, Igi, the law is contained in the Fiscal Management and Control Act of 2017.
But Mr. Algali,
yes.
A whole Secretary to the President put out such a memo during the time where the issue of the single treasury account been just begin. And according to Audit Service, they don't fear now that if they begin to do this, the issue of independence will become questionable.
Understood. With respect to the Secretary to the President, not a lawyer, a give opinion to the Auditor General. Me they tell you that the law with Parliament passed, that the Fiscal Management and Control Act 2017, just so that we are clear, the law states that all monies, Section 3.1, all monies held in the accounts of agencies of government shall, on the coming into operation of this act, be transferred into the consolidated fund. All monies in the accounts of agencies. The law then defines what's an agency of government. Agency of government means an institution which receives revenues or other monies, emphasis there, other monies on behalf of government for transfer into the consolidated fund. And then it go further at section 3.2 say, USAI in any enactment, it's provided that revenues or other monies received by an agency of government are to be retained by that agency for any purpose, including defraying the expenses of that agency. Such revenues or other monies shall be paid, shall is mandatory, shall be paid into the consolidated fund, notwithstanding any provision in the to the contrary contained in any other enactment. That is pretty crystal clear. It express all agencies for transfer money, notwithstanding any enactment to the contrary.
You say the Secretary to the President, not to a lawyer,
yes.
And that particular letter, the way he writes, is not correct.
Yes.
But the Secretary to the President not just sit up on himself and he write, according to the same letter, paragraph 5 go ahead and say this memorandum is issued with the approval of His Excellency the President. We mean say as of that time, His Excellency the President be aware say therefore exempt audit service from the single treasury account.
Okay. Another one for going to that into answer that directly. Now that's the SP right in a letter. I say His Excellency the President said that as well. But His Excellency the President also been given an executive order, number 1, for revenue mobilization, in which he say when he passed the executive order, all agencies for transfer all monies we then get for them, when they collect for government, into the consolidated fund. So His Excellency self-talk in the executive order. So the question is which one?
His Excellency, I ask, can we please specify which one?
Forgive me. His Excellency the current President, Julius Maada Bio, talk in the executive order number 1, revenue mobilization, say when he don't pass this order, all agencies of government for transfer these monies we then collect for government into the consolidated fund. That is say in the executive order, as opposed to waiting the SP say in the memorandum. But now also take on back quickly to the legal opinion where was given.
Because now the question and they have been one for us. We get the Auditor General here some time ago and make mention of the seek clarification in 2018, April, whether or not from the Solicitor General. We also give clarification say indeed they're not supposed for put their own money whether they generate into this single treasury account.
Right. 2 issues there. The Solicitor General gave in legal opinion. That was the former Solicitor General in 2018 gave legal opinion. We sought the legal opinion of the current Solicitor General in 2021. And in your opinion, he say the Auditor General for transfer all monies into the consolidated fund. So now we get 2 opinions. But let me just tell you, no Solicitor General can bind in future person who can take power from him, because the Solicitor General in 2018 say one thing, the one in 2021 say another thing. It's like you go to your doctor, it tell you say you get cancer, you can't die. You would just decide now say okay I can't die last season, or you will go check again to a different doctor, let you an opinion. So we get contrary opinions.
Since we get them 2 contrary opinions there, so and we they quote the act. But we also get the constitution where supreme all other laws.
Absolutely.
And in that constitution, they I believe say it clearly talk about the role of the Auditor General's office for not enough go be controlled by no other law. Other than the laws of this land. So how will I take within the constitution say but the Auditor General's office, since we get in 2 different opinions there, so from legal people from the Attorney General's office.
Well, the constitution we refer to so now section 119 subsection 6 we say that in the exercise of his functions under this constitution or any other law, the Auditor General shall not be subject to the direction or control of any other person or authority. We on contention at the Ministry of Finance is that control, what they refer to so, is operational control. You shall not direct the Auditor General in relation to in operations where they write in report, how they investigate MDAs, operational control. The Fiscal Management and Control Act 2017 is related to financial control. Financial control in no way is in the exercise or implementation of the provisions of the Fiscal Management and Control Act is the Auditor General being tried to be controlled by the Ministry of Finance. You already the Accountant General does tell us say the TSA was set up for level ensure say government at any one time can able to foresee in consolidated position across government. All the money that we agencies that they collect for government. And it's not just revenues, other monies. The act refers to revenues or other monies. Because we already this argument where the Auditor General they say an agency not to a revenue generating agency. Correct, it is not. But so, other monies encompasses the Auditor General and any institution into and the law for say other monies. Those other monies then Now the audit fees the way they collect from MDAs.
So let's just use this area of other monies where the quote so as a lawyer and
Yes.
therefore talk about the law.
Yes.
According to the Auditor General's office, they're not supposed to pay into the single treasury account because they're supposed to operate as an independent institution. And this audit fee, now money where they can hire them, any MDA can hire them, say, while on can conduct audit. And this same thing I can use for the operations for one as an institution. So if they begin pay them money there to the single treasury account, which means that they don't compromise their independence.
Again, I want for referral now to the fact that other agencies of government we're also independent. We're also now governance institutions then get a similar provision within the constitution with the guaranteed independence of the Auditor General inside their own legislation. The Public Procurement Authority, NPPA, section 14.5, give them the same power for be under no control of anybody. The Political Parties Registration Commission, section 3, also give them the same power, not for let anybody control them. Human Rights Commission, section 14, get the same provision we say nobody not for control them. Independent Media Commission get the same thing we say not for control them. Interestingly, even NEC get the same provision, section 3, say not for be controlled by nobody.
So by
but
law,
all the institutions for countrymen, all the institutions then all of them, they transfer their monies them into the CF.
So,
and they're equally as independent as the Auditor General. Why did they transfer? Why in our for transfer?
Mr. Algali, so by law, the audit service salon supposed for generate revenue for government, just like NRA they do?
As I say, I concede that the Auditor General and ASSL are not a revenue generating institution. However, they do collect other monies. Revenues and other monies. The Act refers to revenues and other monies. We on contention is other monies covers audit fees.
So they're not
collected by the Auditor
supposed
General.
to generate revenue for government?
That is not their primary role, no. But then they collect audit fees then, which is, under the legislation, other monies.
So these audit fees, you dey try for say them for convert them to as revenue then they generate for government?
Norma, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the legislation provides for the collection of revenues and other monies. These other monies, then now I say you can couch audit fees collected by the Auditor General.
The timing of this whole issue now, one way many people question. 2018, the government or the Minister of Finance now is this issue. 2019, issue now is 2020, I believe. This issue now is that when I not ask or even check the Auditor General's office say, this day, but now so it's supposed to be. Why now?
I don't believe say we have not been asking for this thing. We have been asking for the audit service for transfer monies into the consolidated fund since the legislation was passed. When the legislation was passed, we sent out a letter from the Minister of Finance to all institutions informing them of this new legislation and their obligations then for transfer these monies. And these letters presumably also went to Audit Service Sierra Leone since the Act was passed in 2017. Now, I understand the contention where people try to say, which is that, because there was an adverse audit report given in 2019, that now we are raising issues with the Auditor General. That's not the case. When the report come out, on the 3rd of February, the Financial Secretary writes to the Speaker of Parliament, a copy of the Auditor General, a copy all development partners and other interested stakeholders. He said, and I'll read from the letter, "We welcome the audit reports and commend the Auditor General and her team for contributing to improving transparency and accountability in the management of public resources. We would like to reiterate government's commitment to working with public accountability and government oversight agencies, including Audit Service Sierra Leone, ACC, and Public Accounts of Sierra Leone, to ensure implementation of the audit recommendations and to put in place measures to reduce challenges identified in the report." We said that in the letter sent to the Speaker of Parliament.
My question I ask you now, the timing, as like I say, and you self don't reference waiting because people think say now because the Auditor General reports come up. But if una don't send out memo and from 2018, una let's go till 2021. Whose coincidence did you talk about now? Because if I suppose for put money into an account and not do I believe say the authority is supposed to like check me say you have to put this money now. But 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, just after the auditor's report.
Well, it's a coincidence. It's a coincidence. I can assure you that when the act came into force, we set about asking agencies then, as per the law, for transfer monies into this consolidated fund. And when we reach to the Auditor General, we send out the request, we send out the legal opinion for let it do so.
You say na a coincidence. This same coincidence we talk about opinion from the public, they take and like say na a tactics for intimidate the office of the Auditor General.
I refuse to accept that premise there. And let me be quite clear. This social media storm, as I would call it, would then say they, not orchestrated by either the Ministry of Finance or Audit Service alone. Individuals in the country where the waiting they go on in terms of the back and forth of paper and correspondence decide for take to social media for support either party. And that is healthy in a democracy in the 21st century. You support Audit Service, you take them view. You support Minister of Finance, you take them view. This is healthy in a democracy, I think, in 21st century.
All right, continue for the between the program. We get Farid Algali from the Ministry of Finance, the Director of Legal Affairs, and Richard Williams, also Accountant General. The program, now Good Morning Salon. We continue with the program Good Morning Salon, and they come over to the studio guest team. They come over now to you, Mr. Richard Williams, Accountant General at the Ministry of Finance. And so back and forth from the Ministry of Finance and the Audit Service alone. This Audit Service indeed don't say they go now open the account. How assured they did that they will get, first of all, take me through the process, say Usai they don't agree, if at all they don't agree for now, abide by waiting the ministry say.
Okay, thank you. Apparently from what I gather is that there is an agreement that the audit service could put the audit fees or other monies into the TSA. The process involves us opening a TSA account where there will be no signatory, where the money will go into. Based on the arrangement between the Minister of Finance regarding transfer, which I understand is 100%, will be transferred immediately on instruction, like a standing order to the central bank, that on receipt on a so and so date, transfer amount into that account to the audit service for their use. So virtually that is what's going to happen, right? But obviously that audit fee or that amount transfer is going to be part of their subvention. That is the understanding, and that's the way we intend to go.
Mr. Williams, this whole misunderstanding between the ministry and that of audit service, you don't deal at this particular office for some time now, and you don't know how normally the issues them can happen there. This misunderstanding we don't come between the ministry and audit service. What are your role where you play for ensure say the right thing be done?
Okay. Firstly, I think I can say, the audit service in biggest clients, because the accountant generally prepare their accounts and submit them to the auditor. And interestingly, on the same side, we find ourselves at the same profession, right? We are also members of the same Institute of Chartered Accountants. We are also members of, we are council members of the institutes. So these are things we discuss personally and privately for at least ensure that we bridge this gap, because it's difficult for get professional in the same field and affect itself. So virtually, the issue about independence, as you don't say, I don't think the Minister of Finance in any way want for usurp or attack the independence of the auditors. Yeah, but in the instance wherein obviously you get funding coming from the government, right? The issue of people that might try and question the funding area that government might usurp that area. But the Minister of Finance don't prove over time.
I'll ask you this question because yesterday we've been getting the Deputy Auditor General so, and one thing where it states clear now that they don't deal at this office for a very long time now, and since they published the 2019 Auditor General's report, they begin to get so much tension in doing the work, and then feel like say politics don't come inside the work, and on all then are the same profession. If issues then like this they happen about audit, you think say the independence of the institution could be upheld?
Yeah, I are of the view that independence should be obviously therefore uphold them. That it's a professional job, right? Where the auditor gets therefore give an opinion on using the standards for give an opinion in the accounts. The issue, as I mentioned, of perception, that you cannot. Now, that transparency and accountability they come up with. When transparency they reach at this level, when document, and especially with social media now, and then platform, you get people, obviously, the moment documents are out, it's a public document. People will analyze them in their way, and then go come up with their own suggestion or their own views. So those are some of the things that will come. There is an opportunity, there is a threat around all of this, but I think we'll learn from it. The issues raised on our side as a ministry, we don't look at the findings, and we'll try to see how best we can work on them and try to improve the situation. I believe say the auditors themselves, based on what's in the happy now, then go look at the issues that with people that they raise, and try to look at the views, because we should therefore realize when documents come out in the public, it's subject now to public opinion. And at the same time, again, when a document kind of public, everybody can analyze that in any way, and attacks can come out anyway. So another thing, say, for me, I advise the auditors that they keep on, they continue to do the work professionally. We self will continue to do our own part. Then at the same time, this is a learning situation that we need to look at our work, take work seriously. Even the clients, the fact that all the vote controllers and they go to Parliament, they go answer questions, and even the Deputy Auditor General mentioned about the use of the audit report and the Commission of Inquiry. They make people, they could pay more attention to the work. They help with public financial management, right? External scrutiny, right? So there are opportunities that will come out of this. This is something that people will discuss as we go along.
Continue for the return of the program. Accountant General and the Ministry of Finance. We continue with the program Good Morning Salon, and we will bring this Friday edition of the program come to you, Mina Asma James.
And Mina Khadija Bangura.
I come to Farid Al-Ghali, Director Legal Affairs at the Ministry of Finance. Legal opinions here, we don't see two different ones from the Attorney General's office, and also despite all the talk opinions, then the Ministry of Finance still believes the Auditor General's office for puts whatever they gather into the consolidated fund, even though the Act also states they for retain any money way because it starts for about Act, law, constitution, but also the Audit Service, the own Act also say they for retain whatever money then they gather. This clearly does show say confusion there into the laws, because we get the different acts them where they say different things. We get the Supreme Law where itself say your own thing. But as a lawyer, also a legal person, we the advice na the Ministry of Finance. We get especially Audit Service, the courts, and also the ACC. In your own legal opinion also, you think say for make that institution has to be independent from precedents also now one way the lawyer them on always done the kinky reference to. So in your opinion, you think say then institution they also was supposed to be independent really for subdue to this that the revenue when they generate, therefore put her into the consolidated fund?
Yes. Thank you again, Asma. Look, I've been telling previously that you get governance institutions then, we patently independent. We get the same provisions that with the Auditor General then gets that they act. We guarantee that then self not for under the control of anybody. I don't read that now. Public Procurement Authority, Political Parties Registration Commission, Human Rights Commission, Independent Media Commission, National Electoral Commission, they all get the same provisions that we say they're independent. We the try for let the public know say those legislation they talk about operational independence. We they carry out your functions then for that institution. We are referring to we delineate and say that those provisions then are in relation to operational independence. How you they operate, how you they carry on the institution. We are talking about financial independence. We not believe say any institution of government will feed off the budget who they feed off the budget and state resources, get financial independence. If you are financially independent, you forgo and go make your own money. Once government they give you money, government get right through the Ministry of Finance for check on your accountability and transparency of which you they bring inside for government.
So need they like now ask you legal opinion on
Yes,
that?
yes.
Need they for make governments look at all because every different law they contradict each
Good,
other.
I'm happy
So
with
in
that
your
point,
legal
sir.
opinion,
Yes.
you think say need they for let government look at all this and get one opinion on all of these?
Well, interestingly, as a lawyer, I will tell you that any lawyer will tell you, say, when one law is passed, let's say in 2014, and then a new law is passed in 2017, anything within that previous law of 2014, we're not there in accordance with the current law of the 2017. That 2014 law there is repugnant and is not looked at as being any more void, any more legal.
Mr. Algali, let's take you now to some of the laws them the National Revenue Authority, we na the body, the major body for collect revenue for government. So I believe say they work closely with the Ministry
Absolutely.
of Finance. The National Revenue Authority gets what they call non-tax revenue, which include fees, fines, and other things them. And when you look at the audit fees, it fall under the category of this non-tax revenue, the National Revenue Authority. And normally, institution they can collect then non-tax revenue there, NRA can deploy the officers then they for go collect them money there so
Yes.
and then go turn at the consolidated fund.
Yes.
So if this happen, you dey talk about this same law.
Yes.
We say them for put all other fees.
Correct.
You not think saying that NRA they work the Ministry of Finance they try for take so?
No, because the objective of the Fiscal Management and Control Act, now for all agencies of government, when they collect revenue and emphasis other monies.
Now the same
other
thing
monies.
I dey talk about, Mr. Algali.
Yes.
NRA don't they do them
Yes.
to other institution them
Yes.
where they collect other monies.
Yes.
Then can go there and collect them as non-tax revenue.
Yes.
And then they go with and go put them at the same consolidated fund where they collect as domestic revenue.
Yes. We on contention is we're not talking about revenues. The Act provides for collection of revenues and other monies. We on contention is that other monies will include audit fees collected by the Auditor General. And we're not collecting. You see, this is the misnomer. We're not collecting money where we say for transfer them into the CF. Into the Treasury single account. The Treasury single account is not there as a normal account. It's there for like government able to see at one glance in consolidated positions across all agencies of government. For let government know say all the money they will get na X.
There are issues there so of legal misunderstanding, not what today begin happen between una the Minister of Finance and other institution them. But normally the FS can sit down with other people them and try for solve them amicably.
Yes.
Waiting different from this issue where we don't they see so much sensitive documents them they na the public, then they discuss them and most people they of the opinion say one party they try for make the other party look bad to the public.
We not believe that, and I can assure you that is not the intention of the Financial Secretary. Look, members of the public, this is the Audit Service Sierra Leone where they audit all agencies of government, ministries, departments, and agencies there. If you get small palaver, inverted commas, between that institution there and the Ministry of Finance, and other institutions the way they audit. It's fine because if Ministry of Finance and other institutions there and the audit service they in peace, inverted commas, you go say, well, they will collude. So this discourse, this social media storm, these issues that they discuss so, this contention will not steady between audit service Sierra Leone and Ministry of Finance. It's fine because they keep all parties on their toes. We will not say, hey, or the service said, don't tell them sons from things they don't know echo, they'll watch we. So we say, no, take with government resources. Likewise, all the service will say, okay, they might don't tell we some what they will know. Like, good. We go now go search them and look them and scrutinize them. This is good for the public because it means we're on our toes and we're not going to misuse public funds. So perhaps I find small to attend them.
Continue for the between the program. Mr. Farid Algali from Finance, Director Legal Affairs, and Richard Williams, Accountant General. Well, we'll go for this short music break where we continue the program.
come to pass. Let we make them for the picking the wood the bone. Hey, no matter who you be, let we make some and a bit. No look so you follow, no follow. Who say you got the foot and a bit. No matter where you go, let we make some and a bit. No look so you follow, no follow. Who say you got the foot and a bit. So now we all, now we no never make it well.
Right, so you enjoy that music there. Salon Awion from Cayman. The program now Good Morning Salon, and it come to you from 98.1 FM. 8:25 now the time from our studio clock. We continue the program.
They look at more issues them, and now they go to Parliament. Also, I remember them na Parliament don't raise concern about the 2018 and 2019 audit report, where they say now Parliament no agree for make them debate on it. This, according to the Paramount Chief Member of Parliament, Natonkolili District, by Ku Kanagbaro Sanka III, he say then as Member of Parliament them not for put politics pan the audit report where audit service can pull every year, because they say this report not the target political party, but now for fight corruption na the country. Usman Kamara gets more and he gonna report.
Inside every sitting where Parliament can hold and talk about different issues they waking dey inside the agenda, Parliament again can open the floor for make member of Parliament then talk about concern them where they get and self waiting the happen at them constituency. Thursday, March 18, 2021, member of Parliament them be raise plenty concern, and one part them concern here na the audit reports.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to raise section 119, subsection 5 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution is very clear on that. Parliament shall debate the report of the Auditor General and appoint where necessary in the public interest a committee to deal with any matters arising therefrom. Mr. Speaker, considering some of us that are in the social media, reading various articles from social media that has to do with the Auditor General herself, that has to do with corruption, I think it is but mandatory for you, the Speaker, to bring to this well the Auditor General's report for us to debate it.
It has been laid on the table, as you know.
Laying the Auditor General's report, that doesn't mean it has been debated, sir.
Honorable Lai Mara, now the member of Parliament for constituency 042, and I voice you just listen to, also immediate concern about the 2018 and 2019 audit report where Parliament for debates. We immediately respond to Honorable Lai Mara, the deputy leader of government business say, and I go say again, Parliament go begin look inside the 2018 and 2019 audit reports.
We don't need a notice of motion.
There's a notice of motion.
The Auditor General's report that they are yet
Honorable
to
member,
receive.
I want both of you to conduct yourselves in a very parliamentary manner. The two of you standing up and addressing each other the way you are doing is unparliamentary.
It has been laid, the document has been laid, and it's now the property of this parliament. There was a notice of motion. The business committee has not been informed by the clerk that the motion has been properly presented to the clerk. We still waited as the business committee. When we receive message from the clerk, then we'll take action. But I will assure you, we respect the Constitution. We are going to stand by it. The document has been laid. Definitely, when the clerk informs us, the business committee will definitely take action. Thank you very much.
Paramount Chief Member of Parliament by Kanagbaru Kuru Sanka III of Tonkolili District. Now one party member of Parliament them, self we raise concern. They say the reason we make member of Parliament them they raise concern about the audit reports now because the president be don't talk, but how for EPAM for fight corruption.
When the president came to the office, he emphasized corruption. During the campaign, he emphasized corruption. And some of us have stood here before and said there is corruption in the country. I and your good friend, Tawa Conte, raised the motion here in Parliament to debate the 2018. It was unanimously passed. Up till now, it has not been debated. 2009 came, 2019 is here back. It's not debated. The COVID report is here back. It's not debated. Sooner or later, the 2020 will be here again. The leadership is telling us it's a motion. It's not a motion. This doesn't require a motion. We raised the motion just to bring awareness so that the leadership and you could have brought in the 2018.
Paramount Chief Member of Parliament by Kanabaru Kuru Sanka III carry on say, Member of Parliament them, not for put politics by the audit report, where audit service salon Kimpul Nado.
You said new direction. Is the new direction going backward? You are going back to the same old corrupt method of doing things. Is that the new direction? It is not a political issue when we talk of audit report. It is a non-political. If I would have been given the point, it's for me to emphasize the president's role and importance in trying to stop corruption. But now you are politicizing the thing. You are making it as if it is meant for SLPP. It's not for SLPP. We should support it. Because most of the civil servants were not appointed by the SLPP government. They were there. So we should point them out. I'm seeing people trying to endorse corruption. It's a pay-yourself movement. It's no.
After this statement, now so the Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Dr. Cherno Abbas Bundu, be adjourn Parliament sitting to March 23rd, 2021. For the Society for Radio Democracy, Mina Usman Kamara, the report.
Right, we continue with the program and still we'll go to other issue quickly and then we come to we studio guesting. The Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs, Mantita Wali, say governments don't give about 5 billion loans for make a ministry begin implement the gender equality and women's empowerment policy for promote gender equality in Salon. He talked this is around 2 days National Women's Conference where the Ministry of Gender and Children's Affairs all with women group them in the country for talk about how for get to woman business in the country. Well, Musa S. Kamara been there and gonna report.
Inside December last year, the President, Dr. Julius Maada launched the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Policy, wherein they call the GWE policy, with the statement, "Happy women make a happy nation." For put this policy into action, different women group them. They meet inside 2-day national conference for talk about them, wherefore they inside this policy as then tagam, employ us, appoint us and elect us. Honorable Manti Tarwali, the Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs.
Inside the GWE policy, what we don't arrange already for the implementation. One, now for we get gender experts them for be seconded to ministries, so that the implementation of what we want can be implemented by the ministry. What we get out of this conference, out of this workshop, will be a national implementation plan, waiting for be implemented at community level, waiting for be implemented at district level, waiting for be implemented at national level.
Mantisarwali continue say, government don't give plenty copper for implement some components them inside this policy.
Also, governments don't give 5 billion for the implementation of the Economic Empowerment Entrepreneurial Fund with the inside the GWE policy. Then for build entrepreneurs. Now, as you already know, we get Munafa Fund. Then this fund also they can be created. Waiting for happen is now for link this fund and the Munafa Fund. So with this fund, we begin with brand new people them, entrepreneurs, startup people them, develop them so that we can connect them to the Munafa Fund.
Maud Peacock, now President for Women's Forum Salon, believe say women them serve for the create space for themselves for push them self go before as they call for gender equality.
Just as the mayor don't say, before we get all the appointment, election, this and that, we'll get for create we own space. We will create we own space, then we will walk majestically into the playing field and we'll be all respectfully. I thank and appreciate the various appointments where the governments don't make. But at the same time, I appeal to Women's Forum, and I'm sure all the other organizations say, and the appeal, say, let them give me independence, for let we able to perform our professional roles respectfully. Let we not come. Let we not feel say that the money we, then they engage this and that for we, then they make bargain for we. let we get free hand in performing our role respectfully.
But waiting 50-50, think about woman them status na saloon. Dr. Aisha Fofana Ibrahim believe say they intimidate woman them we get big positions them na society.
As we continue to encourage women to step up to leadership in a misogynistic society, we are disheartened and enraged by the reality that some women in leadership are being intimidated, bullied, and attacked. This is unacceptable and should not be tolerated. We should, as women, raise our voices in support of these women, irrespective of where we think we stand. We believe that our first and most important constituency should be women, period. The majority of us women are illiterate, poor, and live in rural communities with little or no access to legitimate opportunities, but that does not mean that we do not understand the intricacies of oppression and marginalization.
Justice Miata Samba, Justice of Supreme Court of Saloon, believe say the status of woman them for the bien now because of society makeup, and this, according to Ram, don't start from independence.
Since even before independence, women in Sierra Leone faced a lot of challenges and negative circumstances, which have, over the years, stood in the way of our ever attaining anything close quality with our brothers, in the way of our empowerment and fulfillment of our potentials. We have in the past cultural and traditional challenges. As women, we were not allowed to talk in public forum. We were always expected to take a back seat. The preference was for our brothers to get educated, and the girl child was subjected to being a domestic servant who was groomed to bear children at a very early age, no matter how clever that child was. And that marks the end of any possibility of her being educated and or realizing any precious potential she had.
But Miata Samba believes say with the kind efforts now with different sectors than our society, they place on the woman empowerment, believe say better day for woman them.
There is a genuine ray of hope, as this time around, I observe that a conscious and concerted effort has been made based on lessons learned from the past to actively collect and encapsulate and recognize all previous legislations and efforts that were made into what is today recognized as a legislative framework for gender equality and empowerment of women.
Inside the opening of this 2 days meeting, different partners them where they support woman empowerment in a saloon, like the European Union, Irish Embassy in a saloon, and other one them talk about them continuous support for CC woman them get the right position within the call for na society. For the Society for Radio Democracy, Musa S. Kamara.
We continue with the program. The time from us to the o'clock now 8:38, and we go look at messages them on I don't send inside the program this morning. The first one we go look at say, as long as you are really on government's resources, you cannot be financially independent. Operational independence, yes.
This other one where they come out from Drusil Taylor on our Facebook page, they say the fact that independent agencies pays into the single treasury account does not make it correct. In fact, it shows how these independent institutions have been rendered vulnerable to manipulation. The timing of the escalation of these issues goes to show that.
So by lawyer Algali's submission that any law passed after a current legislation takes precedence over it. So does that mean that the acts that were passed after the FCMA 2017 are not subjected to provisions in the FCMA with specific reference to putting all resources into a TSA and the Consolidated Fund? For instance, the IMC Act was passed in 2020.
From Kelfala Coleman, our Facebook page, they say, let us look at the legality the lawyer is presenting. Nobody is saying there are no financial irregularities by this current administration, which is a normal situation for past and current administrations. Audit Service Sierra Leone can never be independent once it receives funding from the central government.
This one say, this issue of Ministry of Finance and the Audit Service, I believe they've put it under control. Drea, with a big make una no dey fet. We want better for we country.
For Michael Cock on our Facebook page, they say, so all Audit Service Sierra Leone clients will now have to pay their fees into the consolidated funds, and then the Ministry of Finance will transfer those funds to the Audit Service account as part of their subvention, which will take away their independence.
Another message, President Bill declared to increase revenue to GDP ratio as it has been very low in recent past. Our objective of the accounts is also to increase revenue to GDP ratio, which is good for microeconomics, management and assessments in World Bank, IMF programs. Coincidence or no coincidence, this issue should not be overblown. MOF and Audit Service can come to an agreement to deposit the audit revenue into the consolidated fund and ring-fence its utilization for audit. You don't want agencies to have balances in their bank accounts when government is borrowing and paying interest. Some agencies even use those funds to invest in treasury bills.
All right, from Enziamara on our Facebook page, they say, the confusion in the ongoing debate between the Audit Service Sierra Leone and the Ministry of Finance about audit fees is that the ministry deems it that the nation is being cheated. MOF mandate is not to audit institution, neither a revenue mobilization, but they disburse funds to all government institutions with a knowledge of what these funds are meant for. Therefore, if Audit Service Sierra Leone is retaining audit fees and at the same time collecting funds to run the institution, there comes in the issue raised by the MOF, which I believe is for the good of all. Before we give our public views, we should reiterate on the following: how much is being collected from audit fees, how much is being given to Audit Sierra Leone on annual basis to run programs, put all together to see whether Audit Salon has been cheating.
Another message say, please ask my friend Farid what he make of the letter of clarification that was issued from the Office of the President, which states that the Auditor General is not subjected to paying their money into the said accounts. More message we don't carry inside the program. He said, this is not good for democracy. I think the two parties should come together and work in the interest of the country. If this money from Audit Service goes into the consolidated fund, it is going back to them. So why then should they transfer their money into the fund?
All right. This one I go take final one for me from Mystic Dwazak now Facebook page. They say Audit Service Sierra Leone Act mandated them to retain all auditing consultant funds. I see nothing wrong for Audit Service Sierra Leone to implement their terms of reference. As far as I'm concerned, there is something fishy by the current administration.
AC 98, being a democratic radio station, treats everyone equal under the law. Whether you are SLPP, APC, or NGC, or mandate ministry, the law applies to everyone equally. The Auditor General should comply with the law to transfer the other monies of audit fees into the Treasury single account like other independent agencies that fits on the budget. Besides a mere sum of 3.0 billion audit fees, government still gave her by the Ministry of Finance 41 billion in 2020 to pay salaries and other charges. The last one from Milway Agorit say the laws are very complicating. If their act says they should retain the money, the other act is saying this, and the Supreme Law says they should be independent. Mr. Legal Man, your explanation this morning is not satisfying. I think government needs to go back and look at these laws and either harmonize them or make things clear. Well, from the text messages then we go come to the studio guest them. The Accountant General will start because somebody also make mention of whether or not now it has been agreed by both parties, especially from the audit service, for transfer into the accounts.
Okay, on that particular aspect, as I mentioned, from what I gathered, there has been an agreement in Parliament on that particular aspect there. There is another issue again we come up about the transferring monies from straight to the audit service versus splitting it into the TSA. That's not the same. Yeah, it's almost like the same, but it's not the same. The law, we need to go by the law. The law says bring the money to the TSA and engage the Ministry of Finance on an arrangement. So I think law will just follow the law and apply the concept around the Treasury single accounts. There is another issue around the revenue to GDP. I think that is correct. We need to bring all the money so that we go before ensure that our revenue to GDP ratio increase. And that we go stop for borrow unnecessarily because if institutions they hold the money, then they bring and come into buy treasury bills and treasury bonds where government need money and government they go borrow. I don't think that is right. So the concept of the TSA I think is good, and it's important that we follow the due process.
Okay, somebody asked about if law come out after the Fiscal Management and Control Act, whether or not that law they now will contradict the act they use now for request audit fees then. The fact is that no other law passed it will contradict the provisions of the Fiscal Management and Control Act. The act say if we transfer all monies that we collect on behalf of government, whether na revenues or other monies, into the consolidated fund. The objective being for the government see in consolidated position we watch for see which he gets nine bank account. In terms of audit fees collected, now 3 billion collected between 2018 and 2019 total. And that money there, as the Accountant General don't say, not they come to government and they will owe them. If they come into the TSA, we account for them, and then it go back automatically to audit service alone in budgetary allocations for the year to which it relates. I want to emphasize this, that government, in terms of government and the Ministry of Finance, support the audit service alone in work. Now, a very important job they do for ensure say there's transparency and accountability in the use of public resources. This is evidenced by the fact say government over the last 3 years don't substantially increase allocations and disbursements to audit service alone. In 2017, we disbursed 27.1 billion to audit service alone. We go to 34.5 billion in 2018. And further go to 41.9 billion in 2020. The allocation for audit service alone for this year, 2021, is 53.4 billion. No other governance agency, including Anti-Corruption Commission, they receive such a huge allocation. This to show government in commitment to accountability and transparency, and the general in service way they do for the country for ensure say there's probity in the use of audit fees.
To them based on the budget, so then they send to the ministry.
Correct.
And where they can normally go defend.
Yes, correct. In fact, audit service alone are one of the institutions that when they go to budget hearing for defending budget, what they ask for, then they get. Because we recognize, or government recognize, that the audit service they do a fantastic job in ensuring that MDAs use public resources then properly.
There's this issue yesterday again we come up that the discussion will get with the Deputy Auditor General. They talk about challenge of how the ministry they release funds to them for do their work. For example, since January where they don't start the process for do the 2020 budget. Up till now they're not able to get them budgeted. And these same audit fees where the Ministry of Finance they say now them for transfer to the single treasury accounts, and then they use for do their work them all this while.
Well, let me now refer this to my colleague, Accountant General, because he has knowledge of the accounts.
Thank you. The issue around payments, obviously there is a process within the system for access funds. Right? You have to process a payment voucher. In the absence of a payment voucher through the system for which they record those transactions, you know, get funds. Right? So even though the funds do not allocate unto you, there is an effort on your side. And based on what we don't see from the system, I don't think I see a payment voucher coming from ASSL, right? Maybe there's somewhere along the line.
So the problem is from there.
Yes, if we get a payment voucher process, definitely funds will be allocated.
All right, yes, Mr. Gali, the answer to the question.
Yes, indeed. And the funding for this year, as I said, is 53.4 billion. That almost doubles the amount we will give ACC, a similar governance institution. It shows the importance we will place on audit service alone. They're doing a fantastic job. We don't intend for trample on their independence or for control them other than financially. Operational control, absolutely not. We know they go there, we know they touch them, we know they go near them. But financial control on an institution where they feed on the government budget, we get all right under the law for have a say in how the monies and they are being utilized and spent.
You say not they tamper with the operational control, but these same audit fees where the ministry they ask say for go into the treasury account according to audit service and they use for the operational purposes. So if una the request now for these fees, you know things say now way for tamper with the operational control.
Respectfully, I disagree. The objective of the Treasury single account, as I can general don't tell you now, is that government just wants for lady monies come in, we know what it is, and it go back out to the agency. So when this money come inside to the Treasury single account, we not hold on to them. As it come, it go back automatically, 100%, back out to audit service alone for use in the operations. So it's just a matter of us registering what came into government. It's not that we're going to hold it and use it for other purposes for which we can't explain here.
And on accounts, monitor them if they own their accounts there. Una not going to know. You say now for me government go know waiting all thing they can to.
Exactly.
So if the money they to them, you own accounts them. Una government not able for money.
No, as you know, banking law they stop you for access accounts where not to you account.
Okay.
So the only way we will be able to know what happen across agencies, MDAs of government. Now for let the money come into a central account, we see them and they go back out to the
audit the account here, right? Audit firm where Parliament can hire every year can audit the Auditor General's account.
Absolutely, but we're not talking about how the Accountant General, the Auditor General they spend the money.
But we talk about transparency here.
Absolutely.
So in the area of transparency,
right.
then one of the issues that don't come out from the Ministry of Finance,
Mm-hmm.
then they push for transparency. So if every year Parliament they hire a firm
Mm-hmm.
for audit the Auditor General
Mm-hmm.
and pull reports of how they spend their couple, you know things say then they clearly show the transparency where the Ministry of Finance they request for.
Absolutely. We now get contention with how the audit service alone use the monies they way they get from audit fees then. This is not the operational independence. We know they talk about how then they use them. That's not what we're trying to achieve. What we try to achieve is for no waiting come, so government can report them as part of in GDP. For say this money come inside and it don't go back to them. We know they touch them, we know they use them, then they get free operational independence.
Let me say to pay. You say me you answer the question.
All right. Well, okay. Let me answer the question on the SP. As I said, this is a touchy and difficult area for answer because the Secretary to the President will talk about. I believe, respectfully, that the SP in letter was his opinion on the law. Respectfully to the SP, a seasoned civil servant, not a lawyer, and na opinion we believe say igi, and that the SP in letter it raised a few questions because His Excellency the President, the current President, as we know, been done give executive order say all agencies there for transfer all monies there whether they collect for government into the CF. So His Excellency they say one thing, and then the SP said another. So we follow what His Excellency say, and which incidentally, what His Excellency say is the correct position in relation to the law, the Fiscal Management and Control Act.
So how about the issue of consolidating the laws?
Yes, I mean this is an ongoing thing. Laws are dynamic; they change from year to year, and this is part of how laws develop. That when one comes in, it change over time, it becomes obsolescent, then we change them. That is an ongoing process, and it may well be that going forward, we might consolidate all the laws that are relating to revenue and other monies, and this issue not go arise again. But let's be quite clear. The Audit Service Sierra Leone very recently, on Monday, agreed in Parliament, in a meeting mediated by the Honourable Speaker of Parliament, when a lawyer, agree for transfer monies, audit fees, into the consolidated fund. This to show, say, even without going to court or any other place, the Audit Service Sierra Leone finally came to the conclusion and agreement that they should have been transferring audit fees into the consolidated fund.
Women say the issue don't settle.
The issue is settled.
All right.
The issue
Quickly,
is settled.
when I'll to come out from the Ministry of Finance, I'll just ask this question and other one for answer and go decide. Lately, people don't they see sensitive documents they will get for do with amount, figures, they go out to the public, and the question is, who signed documents and did they come out?
Good question.
So you, Mr. Accountant General, when I'm talking, your opinion.
Yes, we serve the ministry. It's a surprise for see official documents. They go out and they come to the public. But with all civil servants, there is a sign a secrecy code to the secrecy code, and it is expected that for keep them things in a secret, unless otherwise approved for counsel to the public. So those are issues that have been looked at, and I think it's important that all people that get information in the course of their duty should not make them available unless we get the necessary approval.
Now to say workman and they now the criminal investigation departments for investigation concerning Dandy.
No, I'm not aware of that.
All right.
I concur entirely with what the Accountant General just say, and let me just be quite clear. Releasing government documents that we classified to the public via any means whatsoever is illegal. If you are caught, you can lose your job in the civil service and be prosecuted.
So
it's unlawful.
Internal investigations.
Well, yes, those are ongoing, but I can assure you that your question as to whether there's anybody at CID currently on this sort of investigation is false, is baseless, is untrue.
All right. Well, many thanks to Una all too. Farid Al-Ghali, Director of Legal Affairs Division at the Ministry of Finance, and also Richard Williams, Accountant General, Ministry of Finance.
Thank you.
Many thanks.
Thank you.
Well, plenty thank you to the production team, Alex Lawrence Koma and Michael Sambola, we produce the program. DJ Lava, Naingi Technical Support, Moses Kevora, and Usman Kamara, and then Mikuna watch we live on Facebook. Nina Asma James.
And Mina Khadija Bangwa, they wish you all a pleasant weekend.